Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CDW podcast, where we discuss creating wealth utilizing the advances in technology available to us today. Well, you know, CDW stands for Create Digital Wealth, and I want you to take this journey with me as I follow the advice, knowledge, and experiences of the guests that I will be bringing to you on this platform. Okay, now, my name is Eddie Groves, and I'm a media specialist who's been involved with computers and digital media for over 30 years. So I have an understanding of technology. And even with that experience, I'm on a journey to learn more and share it with you. As B.B. King once said, the beautiful thing about learning is that nobody can take it away from you. And I really believe that. So today, I want to learn more about blockchain, cryptocurrency, digital money, and that kind of stuff. So I have a guest who is well versed in that space and a member of the younger generation, Mr. Cory Bethrant. Cory is co-founder of Prepaid to Coin LLC, and he is going to enlighten me on the blockchain and crypto scene. Good to have you on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in this currency, this crypto space.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Blockchain was always something that was pretty interesting to me. When I was younger, significantly younger, I was about I want to say 12 or 11 when blockchain technology was first being talked about in a more public space. Funny enough, I was begging, pleading with my mother to convince her to gather some Bitcoin. We know where that went now, but it was an experience that was very interesting because since I was a little kid without money or anything, it made me have to go about things from the technological standpoint. So instead of just purchasing Bitcoin, I had no choice but to learn how to set up a mining situation. So starting with that at a young age already had me into blockchain, specifically cryptocurrencies. Then over time, as time passed, I have been doing a lot of software engineering, and around, I want to say early 2020, we were seeing the bubbling growth of Bitcoin returning. And we noticed that there was, somewhat of a gap for being able to get Bitcoin if you were an unbanked consumer. So typically, if you're a banked consumer and you're buying Bitcoin, you can pretty much buy it from, Coinbase, Binance, any of your traditional platforms. But if you're unbanked, then it becomes virtually impossible. So that's where we come into play. So Prepaid to Coin, we enable unbanked consumers to onboard to cryptocurrency via prepaid gift cards and debit cards they can get, at a local gas station or online. So now unbanked consumer can onboard to crypto in the United States.
Well, that's pretty interesting. Used a few terms that our audience may not be familiar with. We're going to get them kind of in tune with what's happening out here. Now, I see you've had a storied journey to where you are today, to owning your own company. One of the things that we see in society is how cryptocurrency, and of course you mentioned Bitcoin. Bitcoin has become the flagship for cryptocurrency. There's many people who have heard of Bitcoin but have no idea what it is, no idea how it works. And part of what I'm trying to lay on my audience is a simplified version of how we could understand actually what Bitcoin is, as well as some of the uses for other coins that are out there. So can you help us out with that?
Yeah. So I'll try to take it in order from where we started. So maybe I could start with blockchain in general, and then after that I can continue on to Bitcoin and the other specific cryptocurrencies. So blockchain technology in general is really just you can imagine it as one long public ledger. So we have public records, government records that are publicly accessible by people. So if you can imagine a similar concept, but instead of it being centralized and held by, a central power like the government or a corporation, instead it is broken apart into tons of tiny pieces, similar to how the internet already operates. And those pieces are distributed to separate computers, and those computers, using hashing, are able to validate this ledger. So this ledger is impermanence. So as long as the blockchain still exists, it will still be there. So that gives you a unique security that doesn't exist with centralized ledgers. Moving on from blockchain into specifically why Bitcoin is important, mainly because with Bitcoin, it was really the first example of the double spend problem being accurately solved. So originally, with the first attempts at digital money, it was tried. But one issue that kept happening was a user was able to double spend. So in a double spend scenario, someone could spend their crypto with one party and then also send it to another party. And obviously for any type of currency, that is unacceptable. So because of that, cryptocurrencies weren't really having much traction until Bitcoin came along. Once Bitcoin came along and they solved the double spend problem, the actual value of cryptocurrency was able to be realized. This showed people that it was actually possible. Once we found out it was possible, that's when Ethereum came into existence. Ethereum is significant because of the Ethereum virtual machine. The Ethereum virtual machine takes the generic blockchain concept and enables even more decentralized internet protocol. So right now with the internet, in order to access the internet, from your house, you have to have either a cell phone with, a cell phone provider, or you have to have an internet service provider. Well, with blockchain, theoretically, if the entire internet was on a blockchain, you actually would not need an internet service provider and would be able to access all domains whenever at will, as long as you have a connection to at least one person in a local vicinity. So that's huge because, right now we're relying on a bunch of servers that sit in data centers. And if all those data centers were to fail at once catastrophically, the internet as we know it would pretty much be gone. But with blockchain and decentralized internet protocols, that is nowhere near as possible. So that was kind of huge when Ethereum did that. Really, that being able to build upon a blockchain with custom code and scripting just took it to the next level, because now we have these different things like decentralized finance that can only exist because of this.
Well, you know what? I want to jump in because a big part of what people need to understand is how this whole thing relates to decentralization. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Cory a little bit more and get a little deeper into how we can utilize blockchain and cryptocurrency to create digital wealth. Okay, so we'll be right back.
You have something special. You have greatness in you. Hello, I'm Les Brown, Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. I want you to spread the word to your family members and friends to listen to LesBrownGreatnessRadio.com. Absolutely. And let me share with you why we're going to be focusing on positive things, because whatever you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. And now more than ever, when the suicide rate has increased over 33%, when the suicide rate of young children between 5 and 11 has doubled, people feeling hopeless and stressed out and powerless. We need programming that can bring out the greatness in them. And that's what we will be focused on. When you listen, it will be an experience that will transform your life. LesBrownGreatnessRadio.com. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Create Digital Wealth Podcast. And I have the man here, Mr. Cory Bethrant. And he's breaking it down about the blockchain, about the crypto. And when we took a break, you were beginning to talk about decentralization. And one thing I want people to understand is when you're dealing with banks today, you're dealing with a centralized system. Okay. And Cory, break it down in layman's terms. the differences and, the benefits of having a decentralized system, such as what's going on with cryptocurrency.
Yeah. So, yeah, this can definitely be an introduction into decentralized finance because that is mainly the main, I guess, outlet of the differences when you move to decentralization. So, with a traditional bank and in a traditional banking system, it's very similar to the same problem that I was just stating about the internet, how you need a internet service provider, you need the big data centers and everything like that. The reason why you would want to decentralize your banking system is because of 2008, for example. 2008, we saw these centralized places were too big to allow to succumb to normal market conditions, so they were bailed out. If we were in a decentralized system, one, because it's decentralized, there isn't a single point of failure. Because there's not a single point of failure, you don't have 2008. But beyond that, decentralized finance actually gives even more pros, if you will, compared to a traditional bank. So one thing that happens a lot with decentralized finance is you can get significantly more APY, more yield on your investments with decentralized finance versus a traditional bank. And this is because, the cut that is typically taken out by the system, whether it's centralized or decentralized, is significantly less when it's decentralized. So because of that, you're able to make more with your money. So a traditional bank will have a savings account, your interest may be 1% or less, most likely. If you are on a decentralized platform and you're using a stable coin or even some form of cryptocurrency, you can expect APY yields of all the way up to 8 to 12% consistently. And the thing that's crazy about that is that sometimes inconsistently you can get interest rates as high as 50% just on a whim. So decentralized finance definitely increases yields. There's not a single point of failure, so it can't fail as simply. And it's really just the way to go. When you think about what decentralized finance is doing, it's enabling people to do a lot of new forms of banking. So one interesting new thing that's out right now is referred to as a flash loan. So Aave, AAVE, they're a token, by the way. That blockchain technology facilitates the ability to distribute loans that pretty much are guaranteed to be paid back. So basically, with these loans, there is a zero collateral required, zero credit check required. It's not even linked to your identity, to be completely honest. And the reason why that's allowed to even take place is because Aave uses multiple transactions in a single block of the blockchain. And if any of those transactions fail, then the entire transaction fails, which means in theory, if you can't pay back your loan in the same single transaction, you will not be able to receive the loan. And that is able to be calculated in real time then and there. So there's no checking involved. And, that type of technology is super powerful because think about it. If you have some type of way, you can make money in a single transaction, but you don't have, say, 15 million to hit that arbitrage opportunity, if you will, you can take out a flash loan, and that flash loan could be for something like $19 million. And say you're only able to get 1% of what your flash loan is in terms of your actual profit. Well, if you're doing that with your own money and you're doing that with $1,900, for example, okay, you might get $19. But if you do that with $19 million, you might actually get, among the millions or hundred thousands. So decentralized finance definitely is enabling a lot of new opportunities, and they continue to grow.
Well, let me ask you this. I was researching, and we discussed about the different types of loans that are being generated by this new technology, this new decentralized finance. And tell me if I'm right on this. I was looking at a company. I don't remember the name of it, but when I looked at the structure of the loan, the way it worked was, okay, if I have $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, and I wanted to get a loan against that, what they would do is I would give them the Bitcoin, right, or access to the Bitcoin. What they would do, which in my mind, because it wouldn't be smart to hold the Bitcoin in its current state because the value could go down. But if they took that Bitcoin and they cashed it in and put it in maybe an escrow account, right? For that period of time that they're loaning me that money, the Bitcoin is safe. I mean, that currency is safe. So it's guaranteed, as you said, right? So when I pay back the loan, which they make money off of the interest, right? But at the end of it, they give me back my cryptocurrency. Now, of course, they give me the same value that I gave them in the beginning, but which the way you said it is, in that circumstance, there's no need for a credit check, right? There's no need for any other collateral because your cryptocurrency was the collateral. Now, this opens up the doors for people who have challenged credit because it doesn't come into play. Now, I hear a lot of conversation about how cryptocurrency and the blockchain would benefit those in distressed countries and those who are really not well-to-do. Can you explain how that's possible? What is the benefit to people who aren't rich of the blockchain?
Yeah. There's a couple things at play. One thing I did want to let you know is the company you're referring to is Nexo. They have a website. I think it's either nexo.io or nexo.com. Basically, like you said, they allow you to take out loans against your crypto. The thing that's actually very interesting about using Nexo is that it's over collateralized. So what that means is that you can't not pay it back, because if you don't pay it back and the value of whatever cryptocurrency or stablecoin you put in there starts to drop where it approaches the actual amount of your loan, well, it liquidates and it's used to pay the loan. So because of that, an interesting use case is you can have Bitcoin, like you said, and take out a loan against it, but you still own the Bitcoin technically. So, as long as you're making your payments on time or whatever, and the price of Bitcoin continues to rise, the amount of Bitcoin you have is the same that you put in, but the value of that Bitcoin is significantly higher. So in theory, the difference between the asset appreciation and the interest you're paying on the loan really could represent some significant gains. You could see gains as high as 20, 30% versus if you just, cashed out your Bitcoin immediately. And it gives you that safety net, because if it drops below that value, it's going to automatically liquidate. So it's very useful. And moving on to the second thing you were saying about, how people who aren't necessarily rich or have a ton of wealth already, how could they benefit from blockchain? Well, it really comes back down to decentralized finance, because that is one of the biggest things for those types of people, because those types of consumers are typically unbanked. Those types of consumers typically don't have access to maybe required documentation to get a bank account, for example. And in that scenario, decentralized finance, especially if you onboard via something like prepaid to coin that doesn't require you to be banked, you can successfully get into crypto. You can successfully access all the traditional banking features that you would require having, your ID, your identification link and everything. You can do it without that. So if you're in a country that doesn't have, good documentation or keeps birth certificates correctly, you can still build wealth the exact same way someone can with the bank, because decentralized finance, while it's not a traditional bank account, it still functions as one.
Wow, that's powerful. And I like the way that, and here's something I say to people, okay? You have to keep up with the trends and the technology. And when you think back, I know it's before your time, sir, but, our parents and grandparents, they used to, maybe they would take money, put it under the mattress where it was safe, right? Or they would say, hey, go out, get a job, work there for 40 years, put your money in the bank, trust the bank for everything. And, things have changed. So now when you look at a younger generation, such as yourself, I know so many people who have, number one, never really had a job because the opportunities for starting your own business are much greater the process is much easier. The access to capital is much easier. And that allows a quicker income turnaround. And part of what we want to talk about in this podcast is different ways that people could begin and start your own business, build some independence, build some generational wealth, because then the more wealth you build, the less you're dependent on a system that could, as you say, crash at any time. You can diversify. Hey, if I only have $5, I can't really diversify it, right? But if I have $100,000, then I can introduce my money to different areas that could be profitable to me. And, you know, that's the part that I like about the crypto space is you have so many now new coins and new technologies that are going to, and I want you to talk about this too, how the technology of the blockchain is not just about currency, because that's what people think. And you have different technologies. I know Verizon is putting hundreds of millions of dollars into it. There's other big companies who see what's coming and they're taking that opportunity to get ahead of the game because they have smart people on board. So talk to us about how the blockchain is going to be incorporated into other things besides currency.
Yeah. A lot of that actually relates very heavily to what I was speaking on before. So one thing that's very interesting about what is taking place with blockchain technology is, like I said before, it really just represents a public digital ledger. In the simplest form of explanation, that is what it represents. Well, you know, currency and money trading and, you know, sales, etc., isn't the only use case of a public ledger. What else can you use a public ledger for? Well, right now we're seeing NFTs. So that's a public ledger for non-fungible tokens, which is unique art, which is based on hashes. There's also opportunities for decentralized internet. So one thing that's happening with blockchain, if you actually look at it, is, you know, first we had Web 1.0, then we had Web 2.0. And what a lot of people don't realize is that we are actually currently in Web 3.0. The reason why most people don't realize we are is because Web 3.0 is a blockchain layer. And the reason that happened and took place is because with blockchain, you can decentralize internet servers. So, you know, before, the only way to be fault tolerant and have a centralized data center type workflow was using Amazon, AWS, the cloud. But now, or Azure, now because of blockchain, you can do that to the nth degree without centralized authority controlling it or charging you for it. And the thing that's most crazy is that even with the resilient data centers like AWS and Azure, they still have outages. They still have downtime because, you know, even though it's fault tolerant, reliable, and has multiple clusters and whatnot, what ends up happening is, you know, there's still a limit because you're not going to have, say, 1,000 or 10,000 data centers for if something fails one time, because it's just too expensive. Now with the decentralized situation, you get 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, however many miners there are in the blockchain network is how many individual servers your decentralized internet server is being ran on. So what does that mean? That means it is as fault tolerant as it gets. There is no more fault tolerant than the blockchain. So that's why places like Verizon are putting money into it, is because they imagine this Web 3.0 really taking over to the point where all sites are made on a blockchain layer instead of being made with, you know, AWS or Azure default servers.
Well, that brings up two questions I have for you. And man, we're gonna have to get you back to answer some questions, because I'm going to have to get some people to, what I want you guys to do is go to the createdigitalwealth.net website. I want you to send me some questions, because we're going to bring Cory back and we're going to get some more questions. But for today, I have a couple things for you. One, we're going to take a quick break, but the NFT situation is like blowing my mind, right? And I'm going to ask you
Mhm.
about that. But also, I want to ask you something about privacy. Okay. So
Mhm.
hold on, folks. We'll be right back with Cory Bethrant on the CDT podcast.
See why listeners from over 150 countries around the world follow the Book of Dad radio show. Join Dr. Robert Benson and Eddie G as they chat with special guests who share their stories and information that will change your life. Watch and listen on lifeandspiritonline.com or subscribe to the Book of Dad radio show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast. Brought to you by the NASCA Network.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Eddie Groves here. And we are having a great time today with my main man, Cory Bethrant, who is really educating us on the blockchain, on the situation, on what's going on, how we can get involved. Cory had mentioned before we took a break, he had mentioned a couple of terms. One, which is NFTs, which I see now. I know I'm telling you now, I know nothing, right? But I do know that people are paying millions of dollars for NFTs, which is, digital art. Okay. Now, which I think is trendy right now. I think it makes no sense, right? It's not like Picasso or somebody like that, but hey, it is what it is. But break it down for people what NFTs are and how that works.
Yeah. Well, first, to start off, I want to give you a little analogy. So, if you think about it, when Picasso first released, those original pieces of art, especially when he was, first getting started and first getting it going, they were viewed as silly. Like, why are people so enamored by this thing? Like, it wasn't common knowledge how valuable it was really going to become. And I feel like NFTs are in the same space right now. There's a lot of people who think NFTs is a gimmick, but I can tell you right now, they're here to stay. And it's interesting because, people think in order for NFTs to be valuable, they have to, represent a copyright or something of the sort. And they do no such thing. The reason why that's not important is because basically what you're doing with an NFT is you're staking a claim on the blockchain of a unique space that only you can claim. Once it's claimed by one person, it can't be claimed by anyone else unless they sell or move the token. So that's why you have, places on OpenSea that have NFTs that are dedicated to virtual worlds. There's NFTs that are dedicated to digital cards. There's NFTs that are dedicated to traditional art. There's NFTs that are dedicated to fan groups, threads, messages, memes. There's NFTs for really anything. And I think it's really special just because it is, in my opinion, it is, I would say it's the internet of art.
Well, let me break in. So what you're saying is NFTs, an analogy that I'm kind of picking up would be the same as real estate, right? So this particular real estate on the blockchain, you own it, it's yours. Nobody can take it away. It can't be moved.
Yep.
So that's where the value comes in, just like real estate, right? You own this property, the value of that property goes up as more people want land mass. It becomes, now, does that become more valuable because space may not be available later? You know what I mean? Just like real estate, or what is the reason? Because if I think about the blockchain, or if I think about technology and the internet and things like that, the average person thinks of it as an infinite plane or platform, which it most likely is not. You know what I mean? So tell me what it is that gives the value to the NFTs in that space.
Yeah, it's a couple things. It's definitely very similar to real estate, but I would say it's similar to all asset classes. So when you think about asset class, what does that really represent? Well, asset class, usually it would represent something that only you have, or you only have this one of it. If it's, something that is fungible, that means having, different ones doesn't really matter. So say you have a MacBook Pro. Okay, well, that's fungible because if we have the same exact model of MacBook Pro, but at the same exact time from two different Apple stores, we don't care about the difference, right? But something that's not fungible is a limited edition trading card. So, kind of what you want to think of it as is, since NFTs in particular are non-fungible assets, more of its value comes from the fact that it's unique and one of one. So in that respect, it compares more to art. But because unlike art, where, someone could remake the same painting or copy it, you can't copy that hash address. That hash address is owned by that NFT and is exclusive to that NFT and will always be exclusive to that NFT once minted. So because of that, it's almost a combination of real estate and art. And that's kind of why it's becoming so valuable right now.
Well, then I want to say this to our people out there looking to create digital wealth, right? That would be a realm you might want to get into, especially those who are artists, right? This is creating so many avenues for building your wealth, for adding value to your portfolio, and it's exponentially growing as these technologies are growing. I like the way you broke that down, because you gave me clarity. I no longer feel the way I felt before. Thank you, sir.
All right.
But okay, now another question I have. When it comes to the blockchain, cryptocurrency, things of that nature, one of the things that people talk about is privacy, right? So I want you to look at this position. When you think about how the technology of blockchain, okay, is going to be incorporated into the internet and the things that you do on the internet, what does that do to a company like Facebook, okay? Because Facebook makes its money off of your business, right? They want to know what you're doing. They already know what you're doing. They know all your business and they sell it to everybody else, right? That's their business plan, their business model. So if the blockchain becomes a more prominent part of web use, where your identity is concealed, does that ruin their business model? And if so, which is probably why these companies are making sure they get involved in blockchain and get involved in the technology so that they're not left behind. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing that's interesting about cryptocurrencies is, and just blockchain in general, is that, it's kind of interesting when you think about it from a philosophical standpoint. So, you could say blockchain, specifically using Bitcoin as an example, Bitcoin is private. You don't have your name if you're just using your own personal wallet and just receiving and sending Bitcoin, no interaction with the US dollar or onboarding the fiat currency or anything like that. You are theoretically anonymous, other than maybe your IP address, MAC address, some information of that sort. But that can all be changed, stubbed, etc. So because of that, blockchain typically / Bitcoin is referred to as private. But the reason why it's what I like to say is pseudo anonymous is because it still holds a singular account. So basically, your blockchain wallet is its own singular account. So even though your name and your information isn't directly attached to it, what your actions with the wallet are public. So because your actions are public, even though it's not linked to your name, it could be linked to your actions in real life. So that's why I like to refer to it as pseudo anonymous. And that's why places like Facebook are trying to get into blockchain now, because if you're on their blockchain, they can kind of choose how much information is kept on this pseudo anonymous setup. And if they decide, to keep an IP address or anything of the sort, that might be all they need, because they probably already have that link to your Facebook account already, so they could conflate the two together.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. Okay, well, we've got a lot of information today from Mr. Cory. We're going to have him back. Like I said, I want you guys to go to the website, createdigitalwealth.net, get a little bit more information on some of the things that we're going to do. We want you to move along this journey with us. It's a matter of, I'm learning. As you can see, I'm not a young guy anymore, but I'm still learning. You have to continue to learn from people who know more than you do. If you are the smartest guy in your group, you need a new group. Okay. So, Cory, tell us a little bit about how people can catch up with you. First of all, give us a little more detail on your company, on what it does, and then let us know how we can catch up with you.
Yeah. So, Prepaid to Coin LLC. Like I said before, we are a platform that allows unbanked consumers to onboard to cryptocurrencies with fiat, specifically US currency. So just a little bit about Prepaid to Coin. Basically, what we allow you to do is sell prepaid gift cards and debit cards for Bitcoin. We're also going to be enabling other cryptocurrencies in the future. Next will be Ethereum. We have a fast transaction speed, so transactions are almost instant speed. The only thing that limits is the actual speed of the blockchain itself. So in terms of our layer, we don't really add too much to the transaction time. So you can get your Bitcoin faster and avoid slippage. Also, we provide the lowest rates for the exchange of prepaid cards anywhere in terms of blockchain, Bitcoin, any type of cryptocurrency, at least for now. And also, we have easy Know Your Customer. So you're able to register your government ID, license, passport, and you can immediately begin selling up to $500 daily in prepaid gift cards. And you can get your limit increase up to $10,000 depending on your usage and how long you are with us. So that's a little bit of information about Prepaid to Coin. In terms of actually getting in contact with me and staying in touch, you can find me on LinkedIn at Cory Bethrant on LinkedIn. You can also find Prepaid to Coin on LinkedIn as well. You can also find Prepaid to Coin on Instagram at Prepaid to Coin. So yeah, definitely reach out. Definitely feel free to message me on any platform. I'm always available. I'm always looking forward to helping folks out. And yeah, I always will have information to share.
All right. Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate you coming on to the CDW podcast. And guys, listen, don't forget, subscribe, like, download the episodes. We're going to keep on going. We're going to build it up. We're going to bring great guests on to inform us and give us different insight on how to use technology to build digital wealth. And when I say digital wealth, it's not necessarily cryptocurrency, which is a part of it, but it's the way you could use technology in different ways to build wealth on a digital scale. Okay, so thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.